again and welcome to Forum for a Better Understanding. I had so much fun last week on that program on homelessness, I thought we would do it again, but with a different cast, because I really think we could upgrade a little. So what we've got now, I made them laugh at that because Bill stayed on and he's probably thinking, I must be good. We really have so much to tell you about the Homeless Awareness Month and what it is that we're trying to do in the diocese to address this issue that we knew we needed a second program. For that reason, I have Dick Gallagher, who is the member that comes to us all the way from Holy Spirit Parish, but of course, all three are members of the Bishop Steinbock Homeless Advocacy Committee. In the middle of our table, we again have Bill Simon, the chair of that committee, and across from me is Cate Casa, who is the playwright of that famous Reader's Theater you saw last week, a member of the St. Paul Newman Center, and again, a social activist in favor of homelessness, what we're doing about it, addressing this issue. I wonder if the three of you could, in one sentence, tell me why it is that homelessness remains, among all the other issues that we have to face, something that you are personally committed to at this point in your life. Dick.
Well, I have a trait about me, I guess goes way back as a young man, that I always wanted to help somebody that really needed help, you know, and this is just a natural for us because we see it is getting worse in my estimation, and I like a little slogan I use, to the world you are but one person, but to one person you might be the world. If you step out and do one thing for a person, it might change this world. So I keep going.
You and Sandy, your wife, are doing that in so many ways, Dick. Thank you. Bill, what keeps you at it?
Every day you see homeless people. There are a lot of social justice issues in the world, but this is the one that you meet every single day.
You're right. It's amazing that there is no day that we in Fresno will not see a homeless person. We may not recognize it, they may not ask for money, they may not be on the corner, but they are somewhere, and they are there, 5,000 of them strong. It's, Bill's right, this is something we're going to see every day. Cate, what makes you commit to this?
Well, you know, I can't help but look at what we're seeing in Fresno, and it, you know, it's hard to sleep. You know, when you think about, I go to bed in it might not be extravagant, but you know, I have a warm place to sleep and food on the table and medical care. And then I look out and these people have nothing and they are sleeping on, you know, the cement, and it is cold, wet sometimes, in the heat in the summer. You know, I mean, we have severe situations here, and somebody has to address their needs.
Let's talk about those needs. Give us a little idea, Cate, of the gravity of the situation, the size of the issue, just where it's going in your own, let's say, 2 years of committing to it. What are you observing and finding out?
Well, we know there are people that are actually dying on the streets. We've had those, and there are literally thousands of people here in Fresno on the streets. And the numbers are maybe 5,000, maybe higher, because when you really look at it, if we say that there's 5,000, if we were to count and say, you know, maybe come up with 5,000, we know that that's not an accurate count. We can try, but for every person we have counted, there's the people that are maybe at home on somebody else's couch, or maybe even in an abandoned building that we didn't, you know, account for. We do have a point-in-time survey that we are coming up on, where we're going to try to get an accurate count.
Who works on this point in time? Like we heard about it last week. How do they and who are they that count people, and how do you know you're counting people, and how's that?
Well, it's a consortium that is the Fresno Madera Consortium of Care, Continuum of Care, and there are hopefully going to be 150 volunteers that go out at 5:30 in the morning for, I think, 4 consecutive days? 3 consecutive days, and take account. And I think Bill can tell you a little bit more.
There will be training for the point-in-time survey on Sunday, February 24th. The count itself will take 3 mornings, February 25th, 26th, and 27th. Fresno Housing Authority largely coordinates it for the FMCOC and Pavarello House too. But the thing is, it's really hard to find everybody to count. They're asking us just to give them lists of where we see people and how many, so that they make sure they find those spots, because we don't know where to look for the homeless people anymore.
Now, stupid question, but Father Ipperly always told us there's no stupid questions, Jim, just stupid answers. Stupid question would be, to what end? So we find out that there are so many, then what?
Most of the funding for homeless programs to help the homeless, comes from HUD. It's federal money, and this count is done according to HUD rules, and how much Fresno gets to work with the homeless comes from HUD. And that money goes to individual agencies, perhaps. Some of it goes to the Fresno Housing Authority, all kinds of programs, some of which are to house the homeless, some of which are rehabilitation programs, things like that.
Not a stupid question, but a pointed question, I'm going to say. So actually, we'd like a very good survey done so that the numbers are authentic and also perhaps high, because it would reveal the issue that we are looking at. Like, we'd be more aware that there are 8,000. Would the money then be allotted to us at a higher clip? I mean, in other words, we would be better able to deal with the issue because we would have figured out what the issue is?
I think to some extent that's true. Grants have probably already been issued for this year, but it influences things as we go down the road. And there is a lot of money available, but the previous program has expired, and the new program only has about 2/3 or 3/4 of the amount the last one did.
Why is that?
Because of the Senate and the House of Representatives didn't fund it
So it's
well.
It's at all levels that the commitment towards the most needy is rather given short shrift.
Right.
All the way up to the Congress, which is very typical. I'm not going to, don't start in the Congress. Okay. Another area of concern might be the homeless that are so many. Where do they go tonight? Are there shelters? Why aren't there shelters? Can you start us off, Bill, and then Dick and Kate help fill in? Where do they go?
There really are not shelters. In the last point-in-time survey, they said 1,107 people, I think, were sheltered. The rescue mission has changed their program recently. They used to let people come every night. Now you can come one night, but if you want to come 2 nights, you have to join their program. So that's not really a drop-in shelter anymore. There aren't any. There are a lot of rehabilitation programs that include shelter. So if you're in a drug rehab program or something like that, you will have shelter for the length of the program.
When you say join their program at the Fresno Rescue, what would that entail?
Getting sober,
Going by their rules.
going by their rules, becoming religious.
So the price tag might be for a warm bed is a conversion of sorts.
Yes.
Now, there's definitely people are going to be cynical and find that's a really manipulative experience. On the other hand, is there something to be said for the idea of a commitment made? Is if there's only so many beds, you award them to the ones that, if not are more worthy, are more, I'm just trying to say, speaking for them.
Well, I've been down there many times, and I've contacted and talked to
Larry Arcee?
Larry Arcee, he knows me, and they do have a lot of rules, but they are good rules. If you are really committed enough and follow the rules, you can be, they have a good program for your drug habit or your alcoholic habit or something. They have such strict rules that if you can't give up smoking, you can't even get in. That's a tough one.
That's a big one.
But they do a lot of good. I've seen all the beds and stuff like that. It's very cramped, and they take in as many as they can. But I just have to say they have some rules. And but if somebody is committed and can follow those rules, they would be off the street for a good 6 months. They have a 6-month program. So.
And the thing is, different things work for different people. The religion element is going to help some people
Very good.
overcome whatever problems made them homeless, and for others that won't work. But in terms of shelter, there is one place that's kind of drop-in. Naomi's house at Pavarello has room for 24 women each night. And Pavarello also has the Village of Hope and the Community of Help, the sheds that people are in for a longer term.
And are those places, I imagine, since they're limited, there's only so many, are they full capacity, I suppose?
I think so.
There's a waiting list, or if you're lucky enough, yeah, we have one spot tonight. So.
And you used the word worthy, and I think we have to be careful when we say that. And I know you didn't mean it.
No, I don't mean that.
Right, I knew you didn't mean it. But I think there are some people that think people on the streets aren't worthy just because they're on the streets. But we have to consider how they got there. I think, it's sad when we think that it could have just been a loss of a job or an illness.
Last week's theater that you wrote did remind us a lot of people are one problem away from a disaster. They've got 2 strikes against them already that it's like, I'm not well and I'm not working. But then if one more thing happens, somebody in the family gets ill, the car breaks down, or they have one more situation, that would be the straw that breaks their back. And I think it's very important to be aware that we are never talking of being worthy, because we are all, to God's benefit, receiving the graces we do. And you don't earn grace. You live on grace. You don't earn it. So what I would say, let's be very aware when we talk in the next section of our program, when we look at what the organizations are doing and what we're doing in town, that we know that our brothers and sisters are all worthy of our love and affection and our care. We'll take our break right now, but we'll be right back in a minute with another panel to cover some more ground on the Bishop John Steinbock Homeless Advocacy Committee and Bishop Ochoa's month of diocesan awareness of homelessness.
This is what I wanted to cover.
For over 25 years, KNXT has been serving the people of the San Joaquin Valley with good family television that's just not available anywhere else. It's important for you, the viewer, to help support this valuable tool of ministry. KNXT needs to continue to grow and bring you important programming about your faith. But sometimes it's hard to stop and find the time. Make it easy. Go to knxt.tv and find out how easy it is to support your Catholic television station, KNXT TV.
Hello and welcome to the second half of our second program on homelessness and Homeless Awareness Month here in the Diocese of Fresno. We've added 2 new people to our panel, and I think you know who they may be. One of them you saw last week, and he's awesome. That would be Jim Nelson, who is again from the St. Paul Newman Center. He'll be speaking to us I was going to say pronto, but that would be another language, I'll say soon, on what is the church's position on this issue, and what about the scripture? And across from me is Vicki Pontius, who happens to be coming to us on a loan from Hope Lutheran Church. And we are so glad that this committee has expanded its own horizons and has been very blessed by having members from different religious communities in town. which have a very strong tradition of social justice and doing wonderful work for the homeless. Vicki is very passionately committed to this, and that's why she's on the team, and that's why she's here today. I wonder if we could begin with Jim, though, telling us a moment, quick answer. Where is Scripture giving us energy for this issue, Jim?
Well, I think that we just have to look at both the Old Testament and also the New Testament. The Catholic social teaching, I'm sure, is rooted in the Scriptures. In the Old Testament, we just have to look at some of the works of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. And then from there, as we jump into the more dynamic element of the New Testament, is just take a look at what Matthew has to tell us about what our responsibilities are to the poor and to the homeless.
And what about the area of Catholic social doctrine? Besides Scripture, what are some things that you'd say Catholic social doctrine is very strong on? What points?
Well, we would have to, the Catholic Church has to proclaim that human life is sacred and the dignity of the human being. And to me, that's where the whole fundamental premise lies. Every person is very, very precious, and people are more important than things.
What is this principle that we have mentioned many times, but not today yet? The preferential option for the poor. What does that mean, and where do we have it fleshed out, and how does it apply to the issue of the homeless? This is worth 10 points, and you could open up, Jim, but then Bill and Vicki feel very free to join in on preferential option. What is that?
Well, I think Bill could pick up
We're
on that
going
one.
to defer to Bill on this one.
The preferential option for the poor and vulnerable basically means we have to be very concerned for those who have less in this world. And as long as some people don't have a sufficient level of a standard of living, as long as there are poor, the rest of us have to be willing to share what we have with them and limit what we have ourselves, because Jesus tells us we have to give the poor and vulnerable at least a basic standard of living and basic dignity.
You know, we say that all people are created equal, but according to the Catholic Church, that's not true. God has a preference actually for the poor. In other words, if you're poor, you get better. And here's why. It sounds twisted, but it makes sense to me because I'm sort of strange. Article 50 in this document, Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship, says, while the common good embraces all, those who are weak, vulnerable, and most in need deserve preferential concern. I love that when it says that if you are more needy, you deserve more. You're more worthy of help because you need it. And don't we all? And the Catechism says, believe it or not, those who are oppressed by poverty are the objects of a preferential love on the part of the Church, which since her origin and in spite of the failings of many of her members, that's us, has not, I added that, has not ceased to work for their relief, defense, and liberation through numerous works of charity which remain indispensable always and everywhere. That brings up Vicki. What are the churches doing? Are we doing our work out there?
Well, yes, very definitely. Part of our first summit that we had, and we talked a little bit earlier, an idea was born, and that idea was to talk within our zip code groups and find out more about what's going on with the houses of worship within your zip code group. We've gotten together, and I will speak with 93710. That's where our church is located.
Where is that? Tell us where that is geographically.
93710 is northeast Fresno, north of Shaw, in that area in there, and also east of Blackstone. So it's a fairly large area. Within that area, we have any number of churches who have come together talking about the kinds of activities that are going on in terms of addressing the homeless, between weekly food pantries, offering showering facilities, offering toiletries for our homeless folks, clothing, help with getting ready for job interviews. There's a tremendous amount that is going on. One of the local churches even has a bicycle clinic.
Who does
to
that?
help.
That's awesome.
That's the Wesley.
United Methodist? Cool.
They have a bicycle
And
clinic.
you guys at Hope Lutheran do the showers on Tuesday morning.
Correct.
You
do
give out
showers.
food on Tuesdays.
We give out food.
Whom else is like giving out food?
There are a number of food pantries around town, and that would lead us into, again, the website, which is set up by the zip codes, so that you are able to take a look at a very, very simple page, click on your location within the area of Fresno, and up pops any number of resources that are available to you. Very, very simple.
Can you put that up, Greg? It's helpinfresno.org. I've gone there. Tell us a little bit more, Vicki, about how I think that was a project of the committee to get this website up. Tell us about it.
Right. It actually came from our meeting together as a zip code. Once we started asking each other, what is it that you're doing? What is your church doing? What are you doing? And we gathered this information. The decision was then made, now what do we do with this information? And it was our thinking that by putting this up on a web page, we could share this information with those who need it the most, keeping it very, very simple, uncomplicated, uncluttered. And the next step, of course, will be that we will want to do some training, and we can certainly work with the libraries in town, possibly Catholic Charities, bring some computers in at the food pantries, just to show this particular website and making it available for use.
Besides that website, we want to remind everybody that if you go to the knxt.tv website, you will find lots of homeless resources that we are trying to show you, all the videos of the programs we've done and all the spots that we've created. We also want you to know that there is a way to be in touch with Bill Simon, who is the chair of the Bishop John Steinbock Homeless Advocacy Committee. Bill, what is your email and website, your email and phone number?
My email is bsimon6565@sbcglobal.net, and the phone number is 227-6565.
Usually people don't like to give their phone number, but when somebody is really full-time committed to a project that they want to be responding to, they give you that number. So this is mostly for business work with the homeless that we're putting that number there. Jim, is there anything that you know in your chance now to join this conversation, something that you know was on yours to share that you really want to make sure does not go unmentioned in our last 5 minutes of the program?
Well, we just have to continue doing what we've been doing, maybe do it better, because there is so much awareness to be aware of that until we all get together and really see what everybody is doing, I don't know if we'll ever be able to really get together, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But we have another summit planned in April.
That's
And
what we're going for.
where that's going to take us, we don't know, but I do think we got to get around to the point where we can involve everybody, all the churches, all the faith communities, all the jurisdictions, the police departments, the sheriff's department, the city, the county, the hospitals, in a non-confrontational atmosphere where we can really understand what everybody is doing and how we can cooperate and then collaborate so that we can, as best as we can, take care of this problem.
So Jim's talking about a fourth summit. Bill, in a moment, can you just tell us the first three, just how they progressed one to the other, so that we'll know that there is a certain momentum building in this effort?
The first summit brought together people from 65 different religious groups, and basically it was to say that it's going to take the whole faith community in Fresno to solve the problem of homelessness. And so we got to know what each of us was doing, and we're still working on that. The second one was basically just to talk about how do we follow up with this. And the third one we met with county officials and people from Fresno Housing Authority to say, what can the faith community do to help? And they told us, and now we need to get members of the faith community involved. The fourth summit, we're looking to invite various agencies that do rehabilitation work, housing, feeding people, so that we can see how we can work together with them also.
Vicki, how can you sum up the connection that you've enjoyed so much, almost engineering the connection of the interfaith community, especially the ecumenical community, like Hope Lutheran joining this effort? Tell us about that.
Are you thinking of the ways that we have organized within our zip codes?
Well, even what it is that Hope Lutheran, which has been doing so much good work on its own, right now is sitting as host to others joining. So seeing the joy of solidarity. It's been a blessing, I think, seeing the growth up in 93710. Our parish and yours, we're so close, and we're suddenly hand in glove working on this.
We're recognizing the needs. We are all becoming more and more aware of what can be done, and we're also looking at connecting the resources. There's a lot of resources out there in any number of ways. For example, we have our local fire department now who are very interested in what is going on, and we'll be meeting with them and talking with them more. They'd like to get involved with what we're doing. A lot of organizations just want to know what we are doing, and they'd like to help, but they don't know how.
If you are wondering how, why don't you just check out the website at knxt.tv, go to the YouTube channel, look at some of the programs that we have offered in the past, especially the most recent two, meaning this one and last week's forum. Also, be in touch with Bill, be in touch with your local pastor, be in touch with yourself. Become aware of what you're watching, what you're seeing in the street. Become aware of the issues that are being raised in the paper, on TV, and on the internet. Be aware of homeless, not only during February, but for the rest of the year. God bless.